guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Urha. Let's jump right in. Chapter 88. This venerable one meets another reborn person. His head snapped up to look in the direction the sound had come from. A person in a floor-length gold-patterned black cloak appeared at the end of the hall. His figure was tall and straight, and his entire body was covered under cloth. Even his face was shrouded behind a curtain of black silk. All that was visible was a pair of eyes, but the darkness made it hard to see even those eyes clearly. The person held a blade in his hand, a narrow blade, completely black, unmatched in sharpness. Bugoi. "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am," the person said coldly. His voice sounded strangely warped, as if it had been intentionally distorted. "All you need to know is that I know who you are." A chill ran through Moran, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I'm just a disciple of Shizun Peak, so what if you know me? What's your point?" "A disciple of Shizun Peak? Heh, that's not wrong, but have you forgotten that you're also Ta Xianjun, Emperor of the Mortal Realm, a vicious ghost that slew his teacher and spit on decency, a soul that fled the road to the underworld?" Moran's blood grew colder with every word. He felt like he had fallen into a frozen cave. Ta Xianjun, who bathed all 72 cities of Rufeng sect in blood. Emperor of the Mortal Realm, who married the most beautiful woman in the world, who killed teacher and family alike, who tread on countless people to come out on top. The person continued in an icy tone. "You are Mo Wei Yu. Mo Wei Yu, evil beyond redemption. May he die 10,000 deaths and be denied reincarnation. Mo Wei Yu, deserving of naught but to be torn to pieces at Shizun Peak, his heart and eyes dug out. He ought not get an intact corpse." "Who are you?" Moran saw red. The youthful demeanor disappeared completely off his face to be replaced by a ruthless, fiendish snarl as he stood off against the person at the end of the hallway, on the very verge of lunging at the other's throat and ripping it to pieces, along with all of those names he never wanted to hear again. The person lifted a hand wrapped in black silk, and the entire hallway was instantly covered in layers of ice, dividing the space between them. "You can't call this blade anymore, can you?" The person walked closer, slow and leisurely, stopping some 10 paces away. "Emperor of the Mortal Realm, or maybe it's better to call you Moran now. How laughable. Have you ever taken a good look at yourself, the way you are now? A heart that is no longer cold and hard like steel, staying by Chua Ning's side as you have, even actually developing some fondness for him. Rebirth, I wonder where that person is, the one you swore to protect in the last lifetime." Moran's expression changed instantly. "Shimei? What did you do to Shimei?" The person did not answer, only sneering coldly. "Do you know why you can't call Bugui anymore?" He traced a fingertip slowly along the black body of the blade. "It's because your soul's about to change, your hatred about to dissipate. Your regret, as you lay dying, was that you couldn't protect your Mingjing Shishang, and your wish was that, if there was a next lifetime, that you definitely won't fail him again." Those piercing eyes turned on him. "Moran, have you lived up to that?" The ghost realm barrier is soon to rupture, and what happened back then is sure to repeat. Do you intend to watch him die again? Do you plan to beg Chua Ning for mercy again? All you're doing is letting your second chance go to waste. You don't deserve to touch Bugui ever again. "I don't need you to tell me that!" Moran roared, enraged. "What happens between me and Shimei is no one else's business. Since you already know I'm a reborn person, then who are you? The fake Gochen? Or some dead ghost that's been reborn just like me?" Heh. The person snickered lightly. "Some dead ghost that's been reborn. Yes, I suppose I am some dead ghost that's been reborn. Or did you really think, with the way the world is right now, that you were the only one who was graced by the heavens to be reborn? Just who exactly is this?" Blurry faces flashed frantically through his mind, one after the other. The ones who had died before him in the past life, Shui Zhengyang, Madame Wang, Chua Ning, Song Chutong, Ye Wangxi, or the ones who had charged Wushang Palace just in time to see him off, Shui Meng, Mei Han Shui, the executioners from the 10 great sects. Who is it? Who is it? Just who found out his secret, seized his weakness? Of all his demons from a lifetime ago, just who climbed out from the underworld to chase him down and force him back on the road to ruin? Who is it? But in the split second it had taken for him to think, there was a sudden flash before his eyes, and the man had already moved to stand right in front of him with the flurry of robes. The sheer strength of this person, even after rebirth, rattled Moran. Bugui was already pressed against his chest. Just a bit of pressure and it would pierce through his flesh and into his heart. Mo Wei Yu, I thought you to be a devoted person in matters of affection, but perhaps your Mingjing Shishong simply doesn't have the fortune of your favor. Even in your second life, you still care nothing for him. Moran gritted his teeth. BS! Is it though? The person smirked darkly, one hand closing around Moran's throat and then sliding slowly down to rest on his chest. Does he truly have any place in your heart? Even the little bit of memory you used to cherish has long since worn away. Is there even anything left anymore? Moran growled. As if you would know who's in my heart better than I do. You've blathered on long enough. Why don't you just take off that veil and show me your face already? Don't be in such a hurry. The person's voice was like smoke and his gaze like mist, both with a threat of contempt. I'll show you when you're about to die in this life. You die first, you! He didn't even finish the sentence when he suddenly felt a bone-chilling cold underfoot. Moran looked down to find that the person's icy thorns had already climbed up his body without him knowing. Ice spells, ice thorns, water elemental. Who is it? Who from the past life used such spells? He had met with far too many adversaries, and his head was a complete mess as he scrambled to remember them all. Shui Meng, fire. Chuaning, metal and wood. Ye Wangxi, earth. Shui Zhengyong, earth. Just who is it? Why couldn't he think of someone who had such powerful control over ice? You're not wrong. I'll die too. But, Mo Wei Yu, that won't be for a long, long time. The ice spread quickly over his entire body. This person's strength was truly terrifying. Moran released some spiritual energy to fend off the ice and immediately felt a burst of immense and oppressive force bearing down on him. This person before him might rival even Chua Ning. Water elemental. Who? For one fleeting instant, a blurry face seemed to flash through his mind, but that person's hand clamped down on his neck before he could focus on it. Fingertips wrapped in black silk caressed his throat. There was no reflection in that person's dark eyes. Your Majesty needn't concern yourself with the length of my life, he spoke slowly. More importantly, let me help you retrieve some basic human emotions so that you don't screw up my plans doing everything but what you're supposed to. Ugh! But there was a wet sound of something being cut into. Bugui cried out in sorrow as it pierced his former master's flesh. It's not deep, just getting some of your blood to bind the seal. True to his word, the person only took some blood from the wound to mark between his brows, then began chanting some kind of incantation. A searing pain exploded in Moran's head. He cursed loudly. F your mother! The F did I do to you in your last lifetime? Did I chop you into mincemeat or kill all 18 generations of your ancestors or some shit? F in hell! The F you doing? Shush, hold still. It's just a virtue spell. I don't effing care if it's a virtue spell or a vice spell. Can you stop grossing me out? F off! Morana. The person sighed softly while drawing a seal at his brow. How could you bear to tell me to F off? He paused, then resumed chanting. Heart lesser than water, fever unstoppable, heart gate, open. Agony burst abruptly through his chest. You... The ice was dispelled all of a sudden. Moran stumbled, legs giving out as he sunk slowly to his knees, face pale and colorless. You should thank me. Expression apathetic, the black-robed person looked down at him through lowered lashes for a while, then said evenly, I've heightened the emotions in your heart, love and hate clearer still. Surely you should be able to figure out your own feelings by now. If you still don't know to do all in your power, up to and including giving your life to protect Shimei, even after all this, then you are truly useless, nothing more than an unwanted child tossed aside. So this virtue spell makes love and hate more intense and clear-cut? Why would this person go to such lengths to preserve Shimei's life? Water elemental. These were the last scattered thoughts in his head before his consciousness faded. Moran crumpled to the floor with a thud, thick curtains of lashes closing over his eyes. The black-robed person stared coldly at him for a while, then slowly crouched down to take his pulse, thinking for a short moment before lifting a hand to gather a brilliant blue light in his palm. Forget. The black-robed person uttered in a low voice. The blue light glowed brighter still, and Moran's tightly locked brows slowly relaxed. When he wakes, all he will remember is going out and trying to summon the holy weapon to no avail. He will remember nothing else, nor will he know that there is another person reborn in this world. And the virtue spell, though its effects last for only a few days, is excellent for showing the lost where their desire truly lies. With your emotions heightened, you just might wake up to find yourself even more in love with Shi Mingjing, so in love that you want nothing more than to dig out your own heart and give it to him. The black-robed person said in a cold voice. See you later, Emperor Ta Xianjun. The storm blew over and the waves settled back down. Moran opened his eyes the next morning to find himself lying on the floor next to Chuanning's bed. He turned his head to the side. The window seemed to have been blown open by the wind sometime during the night. It was half closed, swinging gently in the morning breeze, creaking every time it contacts the wooden beam. It was quiet inside the room. Moran didn't have to check the bed to know that Chuanning was still asleep. The sky outside the patterned window was a dull teal. The morning sky was often pale before the rising sun breaks through the clouds to dust the blush on her cheeks and bathe her in warmth. Few people rose this early, so she didn't bother painting her wan, tired countenance. The breeze from the outside carried the faint scent of fresh grass and morning dew. Moran lay there for a while, waiting for consciousness to come to him before sitting up, only to feel a stab of pain in his shoulder. That's weird. Why is there a rip in his clothes and dried blood under it? He stared at it blankly for a while. Didn't he go out last night to test Bugui? He seemed to remember that it didn't respond at all, so it was probably a fake. And then... can't remember. Looking around, he found a thick nail sticking out from the dark brown floor. Must have gotten scratched by the nail then. He was so deeply asleep that he didn't even feel it. Moran, if you got scratched by a nail, you should probably get a tetanus shot, get that checked out. You can get infected. Just a word of advice? Okay. He draped an outer robe over his shoulders and looked toward the bed. Chuanning lay there, peacefully in repose. He had long since gotten used to him being all aloof and high up, enjoying the best, while he himself had to settle for the leftovers, like making do with the floor at the foot of the bed. But he felt extra irritable today for some reason, glaring at that person's figure with an itch in his teeth. How come you always get the bed while I have to sleep on the floor? Sure, the saying goes respect your teacher, but doesn't it also say to love your young? Moran was irked, and he only got more disgruntled when he remembered the nail sticking out from the floor that gave him a cut for no damn reason. It was still early, and he didn't want to curl up pitifully on the floor anymore, so he climbed on the bed and closed his eyes to go back to sleep. The bed was spacious enough that the two of them, one facing left and the other facing right, didn't have to touch. They had once slept in each other's arms. Now they slept with an invisible barrier in between. In the last lifetime, they had been skin to skin, limbs entangled, and, in the most frenzied days, he wouldn't even pull out after making love to him. These two, who had once been so intimate, now lay on opposite sides of the bed to sleep. Okay, end of chapter 88. So, Moran encounters the fake Gochen, the person that has been hindering his new lifetime, the person that has stolen Bugui, and has a weird, strange fixation and obsession with Shimei. Who is this person? Why are they so obsessed with Moran's obsession with Shimei? Like, that's kind of weird. Like, they definitely have to be connected to Shimei somehow. Anyway, they are definitely more powerful than Moran right now. Moran even acknowledged that they might rival Chuanning's prowess, and he ended up getting struck by a spell that intensifies his love and hate. So now he's supposedly gonna have more hatred towards Chuanning and more love feelings towards Shimei is what the spell is supposed to do. I don't know if it's really gonna work, because Moran actually feels really he has really complicated emotions and feelings towards Chuaning. It might not necessarily actually be hate, but it looks like it's starting to work though, because he seems to be kind of irritated with Chuaning after he woke up. But his memory was erased, so he doesn't remember being attacked by the fake Gochen. So we'll have to see if Chuaning realizes that something is amiss. Okay, let's move on to the next chapter. Chapter 89. This venerable one's past affair with you. Okay, looks like there's a warning. There's going to be some non-con in this chapter, so be prepared that there'll be some unsightly things happening. Okay. When Moran woke again, it was already bright outside, and the sun was high in the sky. Moran rolled over and blinked. Chuaning was surprisingly still asleep. Maybe it was the effect of the tapir fragrance stew, or maybe it was because of his poor health lately, coupled with fitful sleep often troubled by dreams. But he was still deeply asleep even at this hour. His back was turned to him, long inky hair spilling loosely across pillow and bed, the color of the night. Moran, ... Since Shizun wasn't up yet, there was even less reason for the disciple to be any kind of industrious. The bed was too comfortable, might as well lie around some more. But it was boring just lying around, so Moran scooted closer and started playing with Chuaning's hair. Shizun's hair always smelled faintly of flowers, soft as smoke, fine as mist. It was one of Moran's favorite things to touch. He brushed his fingers through those misty strands, the smooth, satiny feeling wrapping around his fingers and making him feel all tingly inside. The patterned, dark-colored bed curtains drifted gently in the breeze that swept through the window. He narrowed his eyes. Certain parts of him were particularly energetic in the mornings, and with such a pleasant sensation at the tips of his fingers, one that was so familiar, so... He held a lock of Chuaning's hair to his nose and breathed in. The long, soft strands called to mind things from the bygone past. Do you guys think that Moran has a scent kink? He's always talking about how good Chuaning smells. Yeah, okay. Ever since his rebirth, he had tried his best to not think too much about the more lustful segments of their wanton history together, but for some reason, he simply felt like indulging in some reminiscence this morning. His throat felt a little dry. He didn't want to touch his body anymore, but hair should be fine. Closing his eyes, he pressed his lips lightly against the inky darkness between his fingers. This inky darkness. It was the same inky darkness back then, at Sisheng Peak's Wushan Palace, falling around Moran like a curtain. He held that man's slender waist between his hands, the feeling of lean muscles beneath his fingertips completely different from the feel of a woman. Chuaning worked himself up and down where he straddled Moran's hips. It must have hurt, by the way his sharp brows were pulled so tightly together and specks of light glistened in those phoenix eyes. Ferocity and despair tinged a vivid red. He was so resentful, so unresigned, yet so helplessly pitiful. From his place as the victor, Moran's voice was even and not without malice as he made demands of him. Faster. ... Are you tired already? Moving this slowly? But even like this, Chuaning's ironclad will remained firm, refused to yield. He breathed out, hatred in his watery, red-tinged eyes. Then he bit down on his lip and began to move, fast and rough, almost as if in self-punishment. It was agony. He did it again and again, even when his arched back began to shudder and cold sweat drenched his body. Still he didn't beg, didn't even make a sound. Through the long inky strands hanging before his eyes, Moran's eyes were bright in the darkness of night, burning with animalistic desire, madness, ecstasy, gratification. A stifled groan. It seemed the man on top of him finally couldn't take the pain any longer. Moran's eyes darkened as he sat up without warning and wrapped his arms around the sweat-soaked body that was trembling ever so slightly. He tried so hard to endure it, but still he trembled, and the change in position only sheathed Moran even deeper inside of him. He felt like his stomach might get pierced through. That cruel, ruthless person caressed him, his touch tender yet venomous. Chuaning, did you ever think you'd end up like this one day? Sitting in my lap, taking my... thing? Moran, you're so mean to your Shizun. He gripped him tightly in his arms. Yeah, slowly in and out, nuzzling intimately as a shiver ran through him. You hung of the night sky, Beidou immortal. Heh, in the end, you still had to open your legs and ask me to F you. Hands wandering along the other's waist, he thrust in deep, feeling Chuaning's tightness around him. He was so intoxicated that there were practically fireworks going off in his chest, but he put on a front of calm indifference as he tormented and humiliated him. Didn't you say I was lowly? Didn't you look down on me? But, Chuaning, now it's you who seeks my favor. He sunk his teeth viciously into the other's jaw. Look down. Look at how you're sucking me in, Between the two of us, just who's the lowly one here, my good Shizun? ... Trembling, Chuaning closed his eyes. He didn't want to hear these dirty words. It was his first time. With the person he had once liked, but it was torture worse than death. Open your eyes, came the callous order by his ear. I still have Shuemeng. You know what I'll do if you don't listen. There was no choice. Slowly, he opened his eyes, brimming with tears that he refused to let fall. The hand on his jaw forced him to look down where he was taking his disciple's thing. I'm sorry, guys. This is so awkward to read out loud. The sound of flesh against flesh, the stickiness of blood mixed with thick fluids, all of it was unbearably wanton. Up a little. There was no strength in his legs, but he didn't want Moran's help, the last tattered piece of his dignity forcing his body up by strength of will alone. The hardness inside him slid out until only the engorged head was pressed into his entrance. Moran wrapped his hand around his length, and thrust in shallowly a few times, not too deeply, just enough for Chuaning seeing himself get breached. Chuaning's lashes trembled the whole time, maybe from pain, or humiliation, or arousal. You're such a slut, Moran said in a low voice. If I'd known sooner, I would have effed you back when I was your disciple. He was an uncultured scoundrel after all, no manners or elegance to speak of. The vulgar words cut into Chuaning's heart like a blade. He lifted his head, closed his eyes, and spoke for the first time that night in a voice that was raw and raspy. He said, Moran, just kill me. The hand on his waist twitched imperceptibly. Then Moran smiled, sweet as ever, framed by a pair of charming dimples. Okay. Chuaning's eyes flew open. In those watery eyes that made his blood boil with arousal, Moran saw the reflection of his own twisted smile. I won't stop you if you want to die, but you don't get to choose how. I'll have you get effed by 1,000 people while Shuemeng watches. Actually, Shuemeng should join in too. How about it? You... The cruel words stung him like poison, and, like a venomous scorpion, Moran watched his work with glee, watched the blood drain from Chuaning's face, and the way those slightly parted lips trembled faintly despite his restraint. Moran suddenly felt a deep sense of satisfaction, tinged with pity, but also delight and arousal. He pulled Chuaning back into his arms and buried himself deep inside of him, effing relentlessly into him at an unforgivable pace, almost frenzied. Ha! Just how gullible are you to actually believe that? He let out a deep laugh before kissing him ravenously, his hands rubbing and stroking him as he said between heavy breaths, Don't think too much. I was just messing with you. Yeah, we know that Ta Xianjun is way too possessive of Chuaning, of his Chufei, to actually let anyone else see him naked. You know? Yeah, okay. Chuaning seemed like he was about to fall apart with every thrust, but more than that, it was almost as if his soul had already shattered. Just messing with you. Moran's breaths came out in harsh pants. It wasn't enough, so he pushed him down to the ground and leaned over him, bearing down with his weight and lifting his legs to F into him deeper, snapping his hips with abandon. How could I bear to let anyone else touch you like that? You're mine. Mine alone. Pale, slender fingers scrabbled against the floor, but there was nothing to hold on to. Chuaning was helpless in the end. He could only let him do as he pleased, until his consciousness began to fade and the light in his eyes grew dim. Suddenly, lifting his hand, he covered his eyes. Softly he said, Moran. Moran, if you still have any compassion in you, any conscience. His eyelashes trembled against the back of his hand. Then please, don't do this anymore. Moran. His voice broke into a sob. It was the first time Moran had ever seen him cry in the past life. Moran, I can't take it anymore. It hurts. Chuaning rolled over suddenly, jolting Moran out of his debauched reminiscing. The past dissipated like a scattering of birds, leaving only his heart thumping against his ribcage. The long strands between his fingers slipped away, but that person turned toward him, his face so close now that he could see his individual eyelashes. How beautiful, he thought. In all fairness, Chuaning's looks weren't soft or gentle by any means. His features were handsome, sharp and intense as if cut by blades, and actually more masculine than average. But that only made it all the more enticing. Moran wanted to see this proud, unbending man come undone beneath himself. His heart beat faster and faster. He stared at Chuaning's face, gaze drifting inch by inch until it landed on those lightly colored lips that were slightly parted in sleep. He leaned in subconsciously. Just a little closer and their lips would meet. The sweet taste of dew. Moran's throat worked in a swallow. His mouth felt dry. A little closer. Just a little more. Almost. Suddenly, a flash of clarity shot through his arousal-addled mind, and he froze, face deathly pale. What was he doing? Quickly sitting up, Moran stared at the man in the bed. Chuaning. No matter how much he'd betted him before, that was all in the past already. The F was he doing? Had he lost his mind? Was it possible that he really did like him? Yeah, Moran. You kinda do. Moran paled at the thought, so unsettled that he couldn't think straight. He drew in a deep breath and buried his face in his hands, scrubbing forcefully, and then, cursing under his breath, he pulled on an outer robe and left in a hurry, as if running away. Author's notes. Boss, I spent so much effing effort to grant you a peek into your heart, but not only did you not think of Shimei at all, your head is filled with a little act by you and your Shizun. Looks like I'm Santa Claus, coming here just to deliver your car keys to you, idiot. My rage is endless. So this is the fake Go-Chen that's speaking. The previous life has smut and is naturally accompanied by glass shards. I won't warn for knives in the previous life. I've already said it's all car, knife, knife, car. Haha. Besides, are you scared when you see the word count? Actually, it's because important content was deleted. Don't worry, the translation included the part that was deleted on JJ. Okay. Take this small car for now. So car means smut. Take this small car for now. After all, this is a flashback. We'll start the bigger car in this lifetime. Ooh, Meatbun. Meatbun getting us prepared for some more car. Okay. So, to recap chapter 89, Moran is feeling kind of agitated by Chuaning, definitely because of the spell that was put on him, although he can't remember it. And he starts reminiscing about his past life when he was entangled with Chuaning. He actually remembered their first night together. Again, it was a non-con act, so, you know, Chuaning wasn't consenting. Moran was being kind of douchey, really douchey, and possessive and obsessive. I'm sorry, guys, that was so awkward for me to read out loud. Like, I was trying to self-censor, but, like, it's still so hard. I hope you guys still got the gist of what was happening. I'm like, my face is red right now. It was so hard to... Okay. Anyway, as you can see, Moran has a deep obsession with Chuaning. I think he has a scent kink. He has a hair kink. He has a Chuaning kink, essentially. He likes to bully Chuaning in the past, but he doesn't really make do with his threats because he really can't share Chuaning with anyone else. And Chuaning is in a position where he's afraid that Moran really will hurt Shuemeng, so he goes along with it. And also because he's weaker, because I don't remember. I think Moran destroyed his cultivation or core or something, right? So Chuaning doesn't have any more powers, so that's why he's been weakened to like a mortal form, essentially. But yeah, so I don't know what's gonna happen, because now that Moran's under the influence of this spell, he might be a little bit more rough and aggressive. I hope Chuaning realizes that something is wrong and tries to investigate and help Moran fix it, or that Moran maybe eventually remembers what happens. Like, he must realize that he's acting strange too. But yeah, thank you for listening to today's read-along. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!